welcome back to my channel. I haven't been on here. I forgot my whole intro. But I like to tell scary stories that I find fascinating on the internet and then share it here with you. And the way I give credit to the author, I just leave a link below. You guys can read along. I always leave links below, because most of the time I can't pronounce the names. So the best way for me to give credit is to leave the links to the story below. So credit to whoever wrote this story that I'm about to tell, and it's perfect for summer. It's called Chalk Drawings, and yeah, and it's a personal story, so I don't know who wrote this. Okay. The Chalk Drawing is a short horror tale submitted by Nightmare in 1080p. It tells the story of a little girl who does amazingly detailed art drawings in chalk. If you guys want to see, click the link below and then come back. So yeah, let's continue. How's it going down there? I asked, looking down at the little brunette girl splayed out on the sidewalk. Her chest rose and fell as a dramatic sigh passed her lips. I can't find anything to draw, she said. It's been hours and nothing I think of works. She turned her head in my direction, gazing up at me with her lower lip stuck out. I looked around at the many scrawled chalk shapes surrounding her. Then I looked up at the sky and studied a puffy white mass of clouds drifting on the wind. Well, maybe you could start by just looking around. There are lots of things that look good in a drawing, I said. She shook her head and looked away again. No, I already did that. I drew it all. You can't have drawn everything, I said. There are two things in the world. There are too many things in the world. I think you meant to write that one. You couldn't draw them all in one day. I scanned the chalk drawing as the little girl sighed again and shifted in place. She turned back in my direction with her mouth open and prepared to say something, but froze halfway. I walked back awkwardly on my heels. Suddenly she jerked upright and extended a hand toward the box full of chalk at her side. She slipped an untouched stick of red chalk out of the packet, then turned over and began drawing in the blank spot where she was lying down a moment before. Airplane. Sorry about that. If you can't hear me, just click the link. Yeah. And you can just read along, read ahead. It's alright. It's all good. Just thank you for watching this far. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. I also have a second channel. I will leave that below. It's mostly like theories and predictions for the Scream franchise. I like doing that. It's just, I also do some other fun stuff. So yeah. Okay. The stick of chalk in her hands flew back and forth over the concrete, curving in graceful arcs, shuddering from side to side to make scattered lines. The shells melded together one by one to create an image of extraordinary detail for an artist so young. The focus was unwavering. No matter how many times I tried talking to her, she would just brush it off with a curt grunt and keep sketching. After just a minute of nothing but the sound of chalk scraping the ground, she came out of her trance and rose to her feet. The scarlet chalk dust covered her small hands. She turned around and glanced at me with her bright blue eyes now filled with tears. Weird. I leaned over her shoulder to look at the drawing. The top of the figure was shaped like a human head. It was hairless with cold black eyes the size of dinner plates. Its back was hunched and its chest carved into a rough arc. The skin pulled tight enough to reveal the outline of a few ribs. Its arms were too long for its body and hung low by its feet, nails dragging on the ground. Besides, it was the drawing of a dead man who had been dismembered. I backed up a couple of steps and my jaw dropped. How did you come up with this? I breathed, marveling at the grotesque details. The girl stared up at me with tears spilling down her cheeks. Her finger was pointing in my direction. I frowned at her in confusion. Why would I remind her of a monster? But as I slowly turned and followed her finger with my eyes, I realized she was really where she was really pointing. Okay, that just wow. Okay, because they're gonna leave us on a cliffhanger. Alright, next story. Yeah, I'm gonna do two in one. It's the next story. Don't go anywhere. I have another story, so please continue watching. Okay, this one is called Dare to Dream. It's a personal story. It's also, the link will be left below as well. Okay, Dare to Dream is a story submitted by a user named Gizzy. It's about a girl who has bad dreams after her brother was killed in a car accident. She woke up gasping for air. She could still feel tight fingers around her neck. She quickly switched the light on, pulling the dark out of her room. She had been having the dream for a month now. It was the same each night. She would fall asleep, then she would open them. This was the start of her dream. First, she would hear a quiet shuffling sound. She would roll over, and the door would be cracked open. She knew she had closed it. Suddenly, her brother would appear in front of her. His head bloody, like it was when they found him dead in the street. It had been a hit and run. He was 6 years old. His name was Jake. In the dream, he would say, "Jessica, come with me." She always said no. He would insist, but she wouldn't say yes. Jake would say, "Then I'll make you." He would lock his small hands around her neck. He was strong for his age. She would look into his eyes, pleading, but his eyes weren't the beautiful deep blue anymore. They were a hot, glowing red. As her vision began to blur from lack of oxygen, he would laugh demonically. Next thing she knew, her eyes would flutter open and she would sputter and gasp, trying to catch her breath. Then she would turn the light on so the dark shadows where he would be lurking disappeared. Ever since the dream began, she had become paranoid, always making sure she checked behind her to make sure no one was there. She would also keep the lights on most of the day. In her room, she only had a mirror and a bed. She thought the less furniture she had, there would be less places for Jake to lurk. The only reason she had a mirror was because she loved them. Her house used to be full of mirrors. She wasn't sure why she only allowed herself one mirror. Every morning after the dream, she would look in the mirror. She knew what she would see, but she looked away. Sure enough, she had the distinctive purple bruises around her throat. Just like always, she looked at her watch. It was 8:42. She put on a t-shirt and jeans and ran into the yard. She sat on the bench, watched the clouds. She began to feel tired and decided to take a nap. She opened her eyes and knew she was in the dream. She never had the dream during the day before, let alone outside. Jake came out from behind a large maple tree. He was smiling devilishly. It occurred to her that she had never asked him why he was there. "Jake, leave me alone. Why are you here?" she screamed at him. He walked closer. "You don't know?" he said, sitting next to her. "Don't you know why you only have one mirror?" he asked. She said no. "Do you know why they stuck you in a mental ward instead of a federal prison?" he said. She suddenly remembered. She had an obsession with mirrors. She loved them. She was driving home from the store, admiring her rear mirror. She felt a bump in the road. She continued home and saw the police waiting in her driveway. They told her she had run over her brother. Oh my God. I did not see that coming. I don't read these ahead of time. She loved him so much she had a mental breakdown, screaming gibberish and trying to force the policeman to shoot her. They had to sedate her so she wouldn't injure herself or others. She pushed the memory to the back of her mind, quickly forgetting it. She realized Jake had been inching closer. He clamped his hands around her throat. She gasped and choked for air. She remembered it was just a dream, and she would wake up soon. She started losing consciousness. This is when she usually awakened. But this time she didn't. Oh, wow. I did not see that coming. That was a good story. I hope you guys like both stories. So, like this video, subscribe. comment, hit the notification bell. Also subscribe to my other channel. Do the same thing over there. If you guys like the Scream franchise or horror movies in general. It's mostly just Scream. I need to watch other horror movies and do fun other series. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Actually, no, wait. I'm moving on to the next. Yeah, thank you for watching, and on to the next.
Next chapter.